Did everyone finish the exam? How was it? Can you hear me? Let me share my screen quickly.
Morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. So we're gonna go through the exam today, as well as ask you what grade do you feel like you rightfully deserve at the end. All right. Okay. So before I release the grades, I'm gonna go through the exam as well as ask you what the grade you feel like you deserve is. Okay. Let me share my screen. All right. There we go. Okay. So let's go to question 1. All right. Let me just take attendance quickly. All right, there we go. All right. So, did anyone think the exam was extremely hard? What's the feedback? Good morning.
Morning, sir.
How you doing?
Good.
All right. So today we're gonna be going through the exam answers, and then at the end I'm gonna ask you what grade do you feel like you deserve. So go to question 1. Good morning. Go to question 1 for me. Let's go through the answer.
Wait, sir, I haven't done it. Well, I did it. I finished it, but I haven't uploaded it because I can't, so it's not letting me.
You should have sent. All right. Send me an email quickly. Send me an email quickly, and I'll track the time. So
same, sir. I can't upload it either.
Right, because the time has expired. So send me an email with the exam right now, quickly.
Okay, sir.
All right. So let's get started. While they're doing that, okay? While they're doing that, let's get started. So the first question. All right. Let's go back to the question. So the question asked you. Let's go there. The question asked you. 789.53 expressed to the nearest whole number is. Anyone? What's the answer? Is it 789, 790, 800, or 700 itself? What's the nearest whole number to 789? Khalil. All right, I heard Khalil say 790. Right, and that's correct, because 789, to get it to the nearest whole number, you would have to look at the digit to the right, which is 5. Is 5 above 5 or greater than 5? Yes. So because 789 has a digit of 5 beside it, right? 1 gets added to 9, so that makes it 790, right? And then you drop all the remaining zeros. All the remaining place values, just 5 and 3. So you get 790 as your answer. Everybody understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. So that was question 1. So you should have the question the question paper in front of you while we're going to the answers. And then at the end, as I said before, I'm going to ask you honestly, what grade do you feel like you deserve? All right? That's how we do it here. Okay, question 2. 0.75 written as a common fraction is. All right, I want someone to help me with this question. Let's go to let's pick on Ath0. How would you write 0.75 as a common fraction?
0.75 as a common fraction. So we're at number 2, right?
Right, number 2.
3/4.
Explain how you got 3/4. Right, so let's take a step back. 0.75 has how many places in the decimal?
So 0.
Right, so it has 2 places in the decimal, right? And what do we say you do when you're counting the decimal places if you're trying to divide it by a fraction? So if you had 0.7 to get that as a fraction, what would you have done? 7 divided by what? If you had 0.7 originally, how would you convert that to a fraction? by just saying 7 divided by how much places is in the decimal, correct? So that would be 7 divided by 10. But what if you have 2 places in the decimal? What do you do now?
100.
So it would be 7, right? So it would be 75 divided by 100. Can 75 divided by 100 be simplified? Yes, it can. 75 and 100 has something in common, right? They can be simplified. So we can simply say the fraction can be simplified to 3 divided by 4. What do you use to simplify that fraction? Anyone? What value?
25.
Right, exactly. Good. So that the answer would therefore be B.
Sir, I did the exam like from left to right, and not from like.
Not a problem, not a problem. I honestly I didn't number it because I didn't number it properly, right? So it's not a problem of your order as long as you give me an answer to each question. All right. So the third question. The question asks you, Anne and Betty shared a sum of money in the ratio 2 to 3. Anne received $120. What was Betty's share? Khalil, how do you approach this question?
Yes, sir.
Right. How would you solve this question? Take me to the first step. If you have a ratio 2 to 3 and one of the ratios got X amount of money, how would you find the next ratio?
First you have to divide, sir.
Divide what by what?
Sir, the ratio is 2 to 3 and someone got $10, right, sir?
Mm-hmm.
2 into 10, sir.
Okay, so you're saying that the ratio that got the money, we should divide it, right? So in the case of Anne, what was the ratio that? Huh?
But sir, our number was revealed, sir. So that's why I said it, sir. Am I correct or am I incorrect?
You're correct, because here's why. You told me that to divide the amount of money that Anne got by the share that she got. So Anne received $120 and her ratio was 2. So to find how much of 1 is in that ratio, we say 120 divided by 2. Everybody understand? Right, which is equal to 60. And now that we know the value of 1 share, how much share did Betty get?
180 because 60 times 3 is 180.
Right.
120 would be, or can say 120 plus 60 is 80.
Right. So what I want you to do now, everyone, is to take off the steps that you see on your screen right now, where I declare what Anne's share was, which was 2. Betty's share was 3. Then I said Anne received 120. To find Betty's share, right, we say 120 divided by 2, and that will give us the value of 1 share, and then we can just multiply that by 3 to get Betty's share. So take that quickly off for me. All right. Remember, it's going to be in a virtual notebook. You're going to take a picture of it right now. All right. And then we'll just move on. All right. Close it up. So question 4.
Excuse me, sir. Can I send you? So I'm going to send you the email to my phone because the document doesn't want to go into the email on my computer. So.
All right. Quickly. All right. So now let's go to the fourth question. This one says, by the distributive law, 49 multiplied by 17 plus 49 multiplied by 3 can be simplified to be. All right, let's take our step. Can anyone remind me of what the distributive law is? Anyone? Ludi, what is the distributive law again? Right. So let's take a step back. You have essentially 2 parts to this question, right? You have a question that asks you to find 49 multiplied by 17, and then that's separated by a different search for an answer that says 49 times 3. Wait, one moment. Who's that? Oh, all right, yeah. Sorry about that. So I'm gonna ask you the question again after this loading, and then just tell me what you think. Right? So essentially, this question is in two parts. You have a question that's asking to find 49 times 17 and then 49 times 3, correct? Now, between those two things, is there anything in common?
Yes, sir.
49, correct?
Yes, sir.
So that means that the 49 was distributed to two things. So we could say, therefore, that pulling out the 49 would just give us 49 multiplied by two values. Understand? Because that's how we got the 49 times 17 and then the 49 times 3. Now, what were the two values that 49 is multiplying? 17 and 3, correct? Correct? All right, I think you said yes. So, because the two values were 17 and 3, right? When we split it up, we get 49 multiplying 17 plus 3. And we can just add those two values, right? That will give us 20. So therefore, a simplified version of the question is just adding up the values that were distributed. So it's 17 plus 3, and then multiplying that now by the 49 is common to both. So that essentially is 49 times 20. Everybody understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because 49 is common to both. So essentially, it was distributed to 17 and it was also distributed to 3. All right. Next question. Okay. All right. This question now asks you. Let me zoom out. Let me zoom out one moment. Okay. This question asks you, a netball team played 40 matches and lost 18 of those matches. The percentage that the team won was, all right, this question is a little bit more challenging, as you can realize. Let me ask a question first. How could you represent the amount of matches the team lost over the total amount of matches? Anyone? So what was the total amount of matches? That's 0.
The total amount of matches were 22.
No.
14.
Yeah, 40, because that's the amount of matches they played overall. Right? Now tell me, how much of those matches in the 40 did they lose?
18.
Right. So therefore, we could represent that as a fraction by saying
22, 40.
that would be the amount that they won, correct? So we could just simply say that the matches they lost could be represented by 18 divided by 40, and the matches that they won could be 22 divided by 40. Now, do you remember the step to convert a fraction to a percentage? What did we say? If you have 22 divided by 40, what do you multiply it by to get it to be a percentage?
So I don't remember. So I got that one wrong.
All right. Let's go through the steps again. In the word percentage, let's break it apart. Percent. What did I say cent means in terms of numbers? Percent. Per every 100, correct?
Sir.
So if I want to find the percentage of 22 divided by 40, I simply multiply it by 100. Got it? So therefore, that will be 55%. And you can do it mentally. Half of 40 is what? 20, correct? So if you have half of 40, that represents how much as a percentage? Half of 100 is how much as a percentage?
So half of 100 is 50.
50%. So if they lost 20, if they won 22%, that means it's above half of the games. 22 is more than 20. So therefore, the answer has to be a value closest to 50%. And the closest value to 50% is which choice?
55.
Right. So the answer would be 55% because the fraction originally was 22 divided by 40, which is close to 50%. Right? Good. Okay. Now the next question. All right. This question now asks you. So this one now is to test how well you are at really understanding what is asked. You're given a value. Let's say you didn't even know how to calculate it, right? Which would have simply been just you typing the square root symbol in the calculator and then putting in the number. When you found that number, let me show you that value. Let me calculate it real quick. So look up here for me. Let's go right here. Right. Let me calculate it and show you. So the square root of a value, right? The square root of a value is found on the calculator. Let me get a picture of a calculator to show you. I'm still waiting for the other person to send their exam, right?
Sorry, sent mine.
Yeah, I saw yours, but one more person I'm still not seeing. Okay, let me get a picture of a calculator, and then I'll show you the square root symbol. This calculator is what majority of the persons have. All right, let's see. Here we go. All right, can you see that diagram?
Yes, sir.
Right. So the square root symbol would be the anchorage right beside A, B/C. Do you see that?
AB/.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, sir.
The thing beside it. So that symbol is what you're going to be learning now after we finish this exam. But it was just to test how well you are at critically thinking. So if you didn't understand it, it wasn't the case that the question was marked. I was just trying to see how well were you guys exposed to using the calculator, right? So that question wasn't marked, but I just wanted to see. So that symbol is called a square root symbol, right? And it can essentially find any value that when you multiply it twice gives that value. I'll explain it afterwards. But in the case of the question, it asks you to find the square root of 101.6. Remember, this is not marked, but I just want to see something. So when you press that square root symbol, everyone, you will just type 101.6 and you'll get an answer. That answer now, you will write exactly under I. So let me go here, under I. So let's say that answer was, for example, let me calculate it real quick. Square root, calculator, the square root of 101.6. Right. So the answer was 10.07. Let's write that. So the answer was 10.07. Right. How would you write 10.07 to one decimal place? 10.1, correct. So you got 2 marks there already. Now, how would you write 10.1 to two significant figures? 10.1 to two significant figures. Remember, what was the rule when you see zeros in between two whole numbers? That zero becomes a significant figure, right? So that means the answer for significant figures would just be 10, correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, how would you write that 10 as a standard form? You would say what? Remember, you're trying to get the decimal point to only one digit. So you would say 1.0 multiplied by what? 10 to what power?
1.
To 1 power. There you go. Great. So that was a step to really see how well you guys understood what to do. So yes, correct. All right. So that question wasn't marked again. I just wanted to test something quickly. Okay. Just so you see a hyphen beside it. All right. Let's move on to question 6. All right. This question now is pretty simple. It asks you, in a school, there is a number of students versus a number of teachers. So in a sense, you have 20 students for every teacher. Understand? Then the question asks, and the question asks you, if you have 840 students how many teachers do you have? So using the ratio, find the amount of teachers you would have for 840 students. Right. Ludi, can you take me through what the steps you used?
Sorry for the delay.
Not a problem.
For studying my test.
All right, not a problem.
Which one? Which question?
That would be the question that talks about students and teachers. Question if you did it side to side, it would be question 4 for you.
Oh, sir, I have 42.
Right, that's correct. Now, how did you get 42?
Sir, it's a multi. Sir, I forgot though. I don't know where's my working because I did it on a different paper.
All right, not a problem.
So it's a multiple choice.
But you got the answer though, so not a problem. So let's go to the steps. So Ludi got 42 because the ratio was given as 20 to 1, right? Now, if that 20 magically turns to 840, you would still need to find how many teachers would be in every 20. So to find, so let's write that. To find, let's go here. To find, so you guys should be writing the steps if you didn't got it correctly. And then at the end of the class, I'm going to ask you what your honest opinion of your grade is. To find, right, the amount of teacher for every 20 students, divide this amount of students by 20. By 20. How many students did we have based on the question? We had
800.
Right, we had 840. And we want to find the amount of teachers for every 20 students. So that's division. So 4 means division. Off means multiplication. We'll go through that again after. So now we say 840 divided by 20, and that gives us 42. Let me show you the steps. 840 divided by 20 gives us 42. Everybody understand? All right. Okay. Next question. -4 minus -3. Well, minus is separated by a bracket. So what would you do for this question, Khalil? You have a value -4. Let me show you the steps. Not that one. Right. You have a value -4 being multiplied by an. All right. What did I say you do when you have negative multiplied by a negative? Anyone? So there is a negative being multiplied by another negative. So we can say -3 is multiplied by a negative sign. What was the steps to get this to be solved, guys? Anyone? A negative times a negative gives you? A positive, right, positive. So that means that this 3 will turn to a positive 3, right? And then the additional part of the question, so the second part of the question I gave you, -4. -4 plus 3. What is the answer from that question? You're adding +3 to -4. Anyone? You're essentially saying 4 minus 3. That's 1. But then you just keep the sign of the larger value, which is 4. So it'd be -1. Keeping the sign of the larger value. So if you can't do it mentally, when you say -4 plus 3, you can switch it around, but always keep the sign of a larger value. Understand? So in this case, the larger value was 4. All right. Next question asks you to solve BODMAS, which is, I know everyone has been dying to know how to solve it. Go here. There we go. So this BODMAS question now. What is the first process of BODMAS? Anyone? What does the B stand for again?
Brackets.
Brackets. So we would work out the brackets first of all. In the question, the first bracket was given as, let's check it. First bracket was given as 8 plus 3. 8 plus 3 is 11, correct? All right. Then the second bracket was given as 6 minus 1. 6 minus 1 is 5, correct? So let's put that we worked out those two brackets first. There we go. So we worked out the two brackets first and we got 11 and we got 5. The next step now is to work multiplication. So we would put now 11 multiplied by the 2. Here you see I have 11 times 2. Then the next step is to put the division. 10 divided by the 5. Everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
So therefore it would be 11 times 2, which is 22, plus 2 equals 24. So we worked out the brackets, then the multiplication, division, and then we added them together, which give us 24. All right. Next question. Right. This question asks you about a rope. Right. This question says, I have 3 pieces of rope. One piece is 24 centimeters in length, another piece is 47 centimeters, and the third is 35. What is the total length in centimeters? What does total mean? If you find the total amount of money you have in your pockets, what are you doing?
All of it together.
Right. When you add them, you're supposed to get 106, not 100, my bad. 106 centimeters. There we go. All right. Next question. This one is now, I had to print out the steps because these are the ones that now I feel like we need to go over. So fractions. So pay attention for me. This part is very important. Let's go to the fractions question. Fractions question. In 8 divided by 8 and 3/4 minus 5 and a third. Is that the question? Hold on. One moment. I'll check if it's that. Okay. Let's go to 4 divided by 7. Right, there we go. So we're going to go through this fraction first. 4 divided by 7 minus a third. What was the first step that you need to do? Because you don't have the same denominators, what do you need to find? The LCM. Right? The LCM in this case is going to be the smallest value that is common to both 7 and 3. Multiplying 7 by 3 gives you the smallest value. So what is 7 times 3? 21. So therefore, we can simply say that the denominator is going to be, the LCM is going to be 21, right? So now that we know that LCM is 21, how many times does 7 go into 21? 3 times, correct? Guys, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So now that 7 goes into 21 3 times, we essentially just multiply the numerator by that 3 and we get 12. How many times does 3 go into 21? 7 times, correct? So because it goes through 21 7 times, we multiply the numerator by that 7. So therefore we get 12 minus 7 divided by the LCM. and then we apply the fraction rule, right? Because they have the same denominator, we can just put one denominator for both numerators. So we can just say a divided by c minus b divided by c is the same thing as a minus b all divided by c, right? So therefore we say 12 minus 7 from the LCM that we just got divided by 21. What is 12 minus 7? 5, right. So that would mean that our fraction is 5 divided by 21. And this question, the reason why I want to go through it, right, is because, as I said before, we touch every topic at the surface level, but then now after the midterm, we're going to go in depth and really challenge the critical thinking aspect, because it's very hard for you guys to understand just by me teaching. I want you to take out in the field and do the questions with me. So that's why now I really go through every topic first, and then we go in depth after the midterm. All right, so that question was done well by majority of you guys. So I have to give you hats off. Then we want to go through one more question, which is pretty self-explanatory. Look at this question for me. The question says, find a third of the number 9. First of all, when you're saying a third of, that means you're multiplying. So essentially, multiply 9 by a third. What do you get? Anyone? Let's look at the steps. The first thing we need to understand is that 9 is really 9 divided by 1. Same way you can write it. And when you have now a value that's being multiplied, you simply just multiply across. So 9 times 1 gives us 9. 3 times 1 gives us 3. So essentially, how many times can 3 go into 9? How many times can you multiply 3 to get 9? 3, exactly. So therefore, you call that, whenever it goes into another number, you call that a factor, right? So 3 essentially is the factor of 9. So when it asks you for a third of 9, it's asking you to divide 9 by 3. That gives you a factor, which is 3. Everybody understands?
Yes, sir.
All right. Right, and this question now was a trick question in terms of it's very simple, but some of you guys try to overcomplicate it. The question said, let me go to the question quickly. Question said that you were given Anne spent a third of her money on chocolate and then 2/3 on magazines. How many of the fractions did she spend overall? So a third plus 2/3, because she spent on chocolate as well as magazine. A third plus 2/3 give you how much, guys?
3/3.
Right, and 3/3 is all of the fractions. So therefore, she spent everything on chocolate and magazines. Then so you'd write essentially 3 divided by 3, which is the same thing as 1, which means everything. Then the next question asks you, well, how much money does she have left as a fraction? 3 divided by 3 has no thirds left, so therefore she spent everything. So your answer would be 0, or you could just write there is nothing remaining. Now this fraction is the one that I really want to get into. It asks you, simplify 8 3/4 minus 5 1/3. Right? Remember, we're going to go through these step by step next week, just to introduce you to them. So now, looking at this question, what type of fraction is it? It's a fraction that has a whole part and a fractional part. Right, it's a mixed fraction or mixed number. So because it has a whole number and a fraction. So we call those mixed numbers, which we will be getting into more in depth Monday. right? So when you have a mixed fraction that has a whole number and a fraction part, you essentially have to work out them separately. So you would say the whole number section would just be 8 minus 5, and then the fraction section would be 3/4 minus a third. Right? So let's work on the whole number section first. 8 minus 5 gives us 3. 8 minus 5 gives us 3. Then the 3/4 and the third, right? We would simplify by finding the LCM. The LCM of 3 and 4, as I said, just multiply the two numbers and you find LCM as 12. Everybody there? So when you say no, the LCM is 12, right? You would say, how many times does 4 go into 12? 3 times. So you would multiply the numerator now by that 3 and you get 9. How many times does 3 go into 12? That would be 4 times. So you would essentially get as the numerator, let's write it. Let me write it quickly. As the numerator, you would get, all right, as the numerator, you would get 12 minus 3 into 4. 3 into 12 goes 4, so you get 12 minus 4 divided by the 12. All right, and that gives us the answer 5 divided by 12. Right? So our new fraction is simply 3, which is of the whole number section, and the 5 divided by 12 from the fraction section. Combine them together gives you a mixed number, which we will be going into more Monday. Mixed number. So you can read up quickly on this to prepare for next week's class. Mixed numbers. All right, we have one more question. And then I'm going to ask you, what did you feel like you rightfully deserve on the exam? And then, surprise, it's going to be important. So let's do this one now. So I want someone to take me through the steps. What is the first thing you do to this mixed number? You separate which part and which part? Let's see.